first thing that strikes you when you drive around Detroit is the number of abandoned buildings, the ghosts of a city that was. Early in 2009, I came here to investigate the city's failing public schools for my weekly television news program. But when my team and I started digging, we found a story that was much more complex than we had imagined. So we decided to spend a year documenting a school district in crisis and the students who are trapped in the system with nowhere else to go.
Back in school. Everybody back in the sports off.
Can't go.
What we do? Because you should be in school or going home. That's what.
Man, we was going back to school. Are you see how they treat me?
Go back to the school.
At Osborne School, 800 or 900 students come in as ninth graders. By the time they're 10th graders, it's down to 545 students. By the time they reach 11th grade, it's down to 345 students. When this same cohort reach 12th grade, it's 245 students to graduate. And by then they've had to take the high-stakes test, the MEP test, in the 4 main area members, minimum competencies. 11 students, 11 passed the MEP test. What are the other 780 students going to do for employment? The economics of poverty have devastated Detroit, and without a successful public education system, like most of the urban centers, they're not going to make it.
The children is not first when it comes to Detroit public schools. Some of them, when they graduate from high school, they still can't read, they still can't add, subtract.
They don't care if you don't learn. They will not show you how to do it or nothing.
One of my teachers told me if I come in his class, he said he just pass me if I just show up and study. They say they make their money whether we learn or not.
And if the teachers don't care because they feel like you don't care, you feel like, what's the point? Why should I come here every single day and waste my time and waste your time?
Our country's educational system is broken. That's probably not news to you. Scan the headlines in the paper, magazine covers, television news reports, and if it's a story about American public education, you're likely to hear the word crisis.
These test scores seem to be going down every year.
Test scores are low.
Students returning to class this week are less likely to finish high school than their parents.
Dropout rates are high.
We can't teach with 50 students in a class.
Classrooms are overcrowded.
There's a major difference between the graduation rates of white students and black students.
The gap between the educational haves and the have-nots is growing.
We feel this huge sense of urgency. In this country, we have a 25% dropout rate.
Those who urge reform see the status quo and say it's the product of decades of neglect, and that we as Americans can no longer afford to look the other way, that we must do a far better job of educating our youth if we want to be competitive in the world economy, if we want to make sure our children and our children's children continue to enjoy a standard of living we have come to take for granted.
And so I'd like just to open up and have a bit of a conversation.
In May 2009, President Obama's newly appointed Secretary of Education, Arne Duncan, took this message to Detroit to direct national attention to a city whose very name has become synonymous with economic blight, urban decay, failed school.
God, I'm tired of that argument. I don't have to go to Detroit to know that it smells.
The city's become a punchline in the popular culture for jokes about the worst of the worst.
Take him to Detroit. No! No, not Detroit! No! No, man!
Many journalists have come to Detroit to take pictures of abandoned buildings and to write earnest essays about what's wrong here. They often call the city a ghost town. Detroiters are understandably defensive over outsiders coming here and criticizing their city.
You can make a pretty good case, unfortunately, that Detroit is ground zero education in the country.
Arnie Duncan had a lot to say about Detroit's failing schools, but one phrase he used drowned out all the others.
What is going on in Detroit is an educational disgrace.